welcome to Kids Talk Broadway. I'm Austin.
And I'm Lauren, and we are joined today by Celia Mei Rubin from Broadway's Matilda.
Thank you, I'm excited. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to be in kind of a wide variety of shows. I'm currently doing Matilda, which is really quirky and really fun. Then I've done Miss Saigon, which is very realistic, set during the Vietnam War. I've done Guys and Dolls. So I've done like a whole range of different types of mainly musicals, and it's been great.
So Matilda the musical has some very talented kids in it. Could you tell us a little bit about the rehearsal process before you get to perform on stage?
Yeah, it's actually a really intense rehearsal process. A lot of times people will see the show and come backstage and go, how do those kids know how to do everything? And they go through a really long and intense process. It's anywhere from like a month to 6 weeks, and they work with people to perfect the dancing, to perfect the singing, and to perfect the scene work. And then even when they go into the show, people will stand at the back of the auditorium and watch and take notes, and then give the notes to the children to make sure that every show is always trying to be better and keep doing the great work that they learned in the rehearsal process.
What's the hardest thing about being a professional performer?
I think that's going to vary for everyone. For me personally, the most challenging thing about doing this as a job is not having a job. So you never know like when it's gonna be a home run for you again. So that's, for me, is the most challenging thing about this profession.
So when did you first get interested in performing, Celia?
My dad tells a story of this time when my sister and I were really, really young, and we were in Thailand, really rambunctious. We're twins. And then my dad said that these Thai dancers came out, and we were running, and then we saw the Thai dancers, and we just stopped. And it was like we were mesmerized, and without looking backwards, we just like stepped backwards and didn't take our eyes off the dancers and sat down and watched the dancers like completely silently. He said that in that moment, he saw that it was something that just clicked in us, and so my mom and my dad really tried to foster that from that moment on. And to my memory, I've always been in ballet class and have always wanted to be on stage.
What skills do you think you need to have to be a professional performer?
Well, you need the obvious things, like there needs to be a certain amount of talent, and talent you're just born with. And then you can always work on the skills to be better. But in addition to being a strong singer, being a strong dancer, being a strong actor and performer, you need to have those sort of like life skills of just being responsible, showing up to auditions and rehearsal and shows on time. You need to have do you know what tenacity is? Tenacity means like no matter how tough something is or how challenging something is, you just keep going. And because this business is it's challenging and it's very competitive, I think it's not enough to just be talented. Picking yourself up when it's really tough and just keep going.
So what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you on stage?
I was doing Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and we start on stage in a blackout, and then during the overture the curtain rises, and I was sitting down and the man next to me was lying down, and it's complete blackout, and I leaned over to say hello, and he said all he saw was this shadow coming towards him, so he got really scared, and he went, "Oh!" and he hit me in the nose. And so we stood up, and the curtain's rising, and I just was like, "Oh, Jeff, I'm bleeding. And he was like, "Oh no," so he pulled me off stage, and he had broken my nose.
Oh my God.
The first number started, and everyone was like, "Where are Jeff and Celia? Where are they?" And they ran back, they would do their crossovers, and I had an ice pack on my nose, and I was like, "You guys, I'm gonna be on stage in the second act. Don't worry, and I didn't make it on stage in the second act. They made me go to the emergency room, and the doctor was like, "Just take today off. Your nose is broken." But then I was back in the next day, but it was funny. So I got a broken nose on stage.
What's the craziest costume you've had to wear on stage?
Craziest costume I've had to wear. I've been naked on stage. That was interesting. That's pretty crazy. So not wearing a costume is pretty crazy. I don't think I've ever had to wear anything that's been really, really like difficult to move in, or Matilda has some pretty crazy costumes. But yeah, I'd have to say not wearing a costume on stage is the craziest that it's ever gotten for me.
Well, Celia, thanks so much for the great interview.
Oh, thank you guys.
And thanks everyone for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you again soon on Kids Talk Broadway.